Hey. Boom, boom.
Hello, hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
I am well. How are you, my friend?
Good. I'm good. It's beautiful outside today. So I had my coffee. I listened to the birds sing. I've done a few of my things to take care of myself today. So it's pretty good. And we're being productive. We're here on the podcast, right?
It's always a good thing to say that, right? I had talking about being outside with the
Yeah.
birds today. I did a walk and talk challenge with Jennifer. I hope I don't butcher her last name. Navarrete. We need to have her come and be on our podcast.
Nagarete.
She is from San Antonio, Texas,
Ooh.
and she is doing a live everyday audio walk and talk with women entrepreneurs to talk about business
Mm.
and talk about your challenges and your goals in business. So at lunch today, I backed away from the computer. I went out to my labyrinth, which I'm usually in the morning, but not at midday, and listened to the birds and walked and talked with her. And I did decide, you're going to laugh at me about this. I
What?
did decide, I posted it on Instagram, that I'm tempted to chunk it all. I'm tempted to chunk it all, being an author, a speaker, a coach, a podcaster, everything, and become a flower farmer. Because
I like it.
my purple irises right now, Shannon, you got to come by and see
Yeah.
them. I swear there's 300 blooms on there.
Whew.
And this is
Yeah, I
this
gotta see that.
like a couple of irises are, I think they're rhizomes, the way they grow and scatter, but I brought a handful of them from Texas when I moved to Georgia over 10 years ago, and they were at my old house and they grew, and then I dug them up from my old house and brought them to my new house, and they are just so
Wow.
happy, and I'm like, I'm claiming it. I'm a flower farmer.
See, and when I think about chunking it all, I think about moving to a remote island and selling foot pictures to sugar daddies so that are somewhere else. So a flower farmer is definitely noble, right?
No judgment here, my friend. It's a judgment free
Right.
zone.
Said, is it that easy? I'm trying to be noble. I'm trying to write books. I'm trying to give people resources, but listen, I could just sell feet pictures. Is that a whole industry? But no, that's funny. But let's talk about our topic for today. But we have to introduce ourselves, don't
Let's do it.
we?
Let's do it.
Hi, hi, ladies. Welcome to our show. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial business owner, the founder of Shealo Glo LLC, a handmade shea butter company. I am your personal advocate for your self care and business care.
Hey, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, and published author who helps you upgrade yourself in community care.
Yes, and today we are women connected in wisdom. Excuse me, together we are women connected in wisdom. Did you say that already, Christine? Actually,
No,
kind of cut out. You
no.
didn't? Okay, so together we are women connected in wisdom, a podcast grounded in the eight dimensions of wellness. And today, ladies, we are talking about social wellness.
Mm. I think this is
Yes.
such a huge topic to talk about, especially as in the United States, we're starting to reemerge from the pandemic. It's by far not over. And I want to be
Hmm.
conscious of our friends and colleagues in India who are in the worst of it right now. But here in the United States, we're starting to reemerge and open up. And so this social what does that look like? Like, what's the definition? What are we talking about here when we talk about social wellness? Because I think a lot of folks may have had deprivation from the past year around this. So should we give them the
Oh,
definition?
deprivation and a lot of stuff. Yeah, let's jump right into it. So, the definition we're working from today, ladies, is what is social wellness? It is about nurturing ourselves, others, and our relationships. Social wellness consists of not only balancing our own physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health, but also actively participating as an interdependent piece of the bigger puzzle of humankind.
Right. That's a lot of intersectionality, which we like.
Intersections all over the place. Like listen, levels. There's a lot of stuff. What do you want to call it? Layers.
Right? A lot of layers. When it talks about balancing our own physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Because we often laughed on the show and joked that physical wellness could incorporate almost everything. But by this definition, social wellness can almost incorporate all the other pieces of the 8 dimensions of wellness.
Yeah.
Right? It is, yeah. What jumps out at you about that definition?
So it's the relationship between balancing our own and also actively participating as an interdependent. That part. Right. And I try not to make stuff too complicated, but I started a podcast for this reason. So let's really talk about it. Right. So balancing your own life, managing your own life, your own emotions, your own physical wellness, all of your wellness, and then the interdependence of how mine reacts to yours and what makes the space of us in between each other for all the relationships that you have, whether it's with your parents, whether it's occupational with your bosses, with your work environment, and then with your bosses, with your coworkers, with the people that you feel like work under you. What does that look like? To every social relationship that you can have, and how does that change and relate on a daily basis and on a month to month basis? That's what I think about when I think about social wellness.
Right. Yeah, that it's so interconnected, and that it starts with our self-care.
Yeah.
This is my life's purpose about self and community care. And how do we balance it? And how do we stay well as we're taking care of others? When I co-wrote Stillpoint with Sheila K. Collins, and we talk about the danger to caregivers. And, I've been doing a lot of work this year with activists and caregivers and people and a lot of women who take care of other people and are burnout and are tired and are forgetting to take care of themselves. And it's this social wellness is a piece of it. Like, how do we balance ourselves and the world? Because we got to have both. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We know from this last year of the pandemic, for folks that were isolated and they may have had a lot of time with themselves, but they weren't engaged in community in the way they usually were. And I was talking with a lot of folks that was really painful and really hard. So, boy, it's a dance. It is that, how do we do that? And I'm a connector. So I tend to, sometimes I get out of balance with doing so much community that I'm not doing enough self. And
Absolutely.
I saw a statistic. I was reading this book about burnout. I need to look at what the title of it was. And it was talking about, I'll find it and I'll put it in our show notes. I should have written it down before I got online with you. It was talking about we need 40% rest. So it was talking about.
Say it again, Christine. Wait a minute. Please let these people know.
40% rest. That means 10 hours out of a 24-hour day. So
that makes sense, because I'm like, right? Is this supposed to be how it's gonna be? Like,
but think about that. like, think about that as women business owners, as caregivers, as activists. Like, how often do we give ourselves 40% rest? Right? And I mean,
I haven't seen it.
right? If we're sleeping 7.5 to 8 hours, that's still 2 hours, 2 to 2.5 hours additional rest a day. And what their research was showing, and I'm going to look it up, what their research was showing is if you don't, then your body breaks down.
Yeah.
Right? Which I know to be true as a body wise person. I've been there. I don't even know that you know this story, Shannon. I was the story starts with me standing on a street corner at 2 a.m. in Houston, Texas.
Okay. Okay.
Let me back it up. It might not have quite been 2 a.m. It might have been midnight. But I had a box on my shoulder. I had just wrapped up. At the time, I was the development director for Homes of St. Mark, a foster care and adoption agency. And I had just wrapped up the celebration on the top floor of the Houston Aquarium with 500 people. It was a very successful event, very successful. And, you know, when you do events, what happens is there's always that box at the end that people leave stuff like lost and found, or the, you know, the little bits that need to go back to the office.
That makes sense.
So I was standing on the street corner and I was exhausted. At the time, I was working a full-time job. I had finished my master's program. I had not rested after I'd finished my master's program. And that had included a full-time internship and a full-time job and 2 young kids. And I had never taken the time to rest.
Wait, it included what?
Right? This is a horror
story. Just say it one more time.
It had included a full-time internship, a full-time job, and 2 young kids and Joe. And right. And then I hadn't rested after that. I just kept going. So I was standing on the street corner. And at this time, and people from Houston are going to laugh because they're going to say at this time, it's always this way. But this was a good 15, 20 years ago that construction was happening. So I would have an hour, hour and a half plus every day one way to get to and from work because of the way the construction worked. And so I had done this event. My kids were still young. And I was standing on the street corner and I was just like, I'm done. I'm exhausted. I am really trying to do it all. And I can't. And so I really consciously at that moment remember thinking about setting it all down. Now later, fast forward, I'm going to tell this story in a couple of different parts, but fast forward. And I had a teacher tell me, relax and set it down, but remember to hold on to your immune system. So let's back up in the story. I did not know that. I did not know that wisdom at the time. And I remember standing on that street corner and I remember setting it down. I set the box down as I waited for my ride to come pick me up. And I thought, I'm done. I'm exhausted and I'm done. And I woke up the next morning with Bell's palsy and my body had an autoimmune flare that was, you know, my body was telling me I was done, but I was not listening. Right. And so that is when I decided to become an entrepreneur, and I quit working full time and went contract and started my own business so I could have some more. And I loved, and let me say one more thing about that story before we move on. Part of why it took so long to stop is I love this agency. I love the people I worked with. I love the organization. I love the work I was doing in the world, but I wasn't taking care of myself. I was taking care of everybody else and not taking care of myself. So that, you know, how we talk about in Stillpoint, and I know I've said it on the show before, but when we talk about the definition of self-care, and we talk about, and I'm going to read it out loud because, you know, I need to tell myself this every day.
Thank you.
Self-care is not putting ourselves through frequent, reoccurring cycles of overworked, followed by crashing to recover. This rhythm of full speed ahead, followed by total collapse, is damaging to all dimensions of ourselves: the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, and our social wellness. Like when we talk about how do we do social wellness and all those things are incorporated in it, it goes back to that starting with our self-care, right?
We could talk about, I mean, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. Right. So, one, let's tell our listeners we don't have a guest today. So, welcome to our room, right? It's us and you. We're talking about social wellness. And this, Christine, like, changed my life. Okay. You know, I was a kitchen manager. As a kitchen manager, when the general manager is not there, I'm the general manager. And Christine, you know, I do my job. Okay. They used to, uh, people used to tell me when I would get home, hey, Shannon, they here talking about you. They're mad. They say, Shannon always asking for us to give her the food and always telling us to clean up. I said, y'all make me sound so good when I'm not there. Like just complaining about me doing my job is crazy. But the night that I spent the night at work, it's like last night. This is exactly what I'll do, Christine. Like reading your book has helped me give um, a more specific level of articulation to the situations that I've gone through. Thank you. Because last night I was up till 7 a.m. working, this time on my business. So it'll be worth it. It'll compound over here, right? And I learned a lesson this night, but I stayed at this restaurant, y'all, till 7:30 in the morning. And the reason I did not stay later was because we were being QA'd, which is quality assurance. So the health inspector from our restaurant company was there to check our restaurant out. The other managers were supposed to come back. They did not. I was by myself until
Okay.
7:30. I knew everybody would be there at 8. I said, I'm not going to be here at 8 o'clock. I'm about to go to sleep because I still have to work today. But I spent the night. And that was because I was being too nice. I know my cooks are tired. I care about my cooks. I make sure they eat. I make sure that the breaks are rotated. I make sure they have water. And I make sure my food is together and on time. Let's not play with these guests. My guests need hot food now. Late? What are you doing? Are we on our phone? Are we cooking? Are we at work? What are we doing? But I make sure that I take care of them. And I wanted these men to be able to go home to their families. And so I stayed because I didn't want to point out stuff and be too nitpicky, but then nobody came back. And then I was by myself. But even as a closing manager, it would have been inappropriate really for me to put more work on the other managers that I should have had the staff do. So that's delegation, right? Being comfortable as a young black female leader delegating to men and older men and all, and that's occupational wellness. That's another conversation. But I stayed until 7:30. So I realized that instead of doing 18 things by myself, I should have asked 10 people to do two things, just two things, and take that 20, that other hours. Mind you, we closed at 10 p.m. I left. We might leave on a late night at 3 at the absolute latest, you know, and that's late. 7:30? No, that's not healthy, you know. So when I realized, like you said, I'm committed to everybody else, clearly, but me. I said I was going to drink more water today, and I just didn't get around to it. But I got around to wiping the undersides of these people's counter and the underside of the sink on my back at 5 a.m. But you didn't work out for the past 3 months. Are they going to call you when you're sick? Are they going to be mad because you're not at work?
Right. I mean, that's the thing, right? And we want to, I think sometimes it plays into, well, I think it could be way we were raised. It could play into ego. It could play
Mm,
into, but we are replaceable, right? And
mm,
we don't
mm,
want to be replaceable, but in a lot of
mm-hmm.
ways we are, unless we're down and out. Like we're replaceable to companies and to jobs and things like that, but
Right,
we're not replaceable to ourselves and to our families. So
right.
that thing about how do we do this, right? What are
Yeah.
the tools?
So like what I love, Christine, is that before that would almost offend me. I think it offends a lot of people. I'm not replaceable. I'm Shannon Mitchell. I'm irreplaceable. And that's true, right? We just talked about how that's true. But I gained more peace when I became a business owner, and I learned that the roles that you play and your responsibilities, you should actually get to a level where you could teach somebody else to do that. It's just like I said, take the task shouldn't have been mine. I should have asked somebody else to do it. But what does it look like to financially be able to do that, to know how to articulate what you need in order to ask somebody else to help you? And so again, my point is, as a business owner, I'm not always going to be the person that's hand making the shea butter. I make all this stuff right now, but eventually it might be somebody else. Eventually, it might be somebody else at the market. It's not going to be me at every market. I'm going to have 5 people at 5 markets, and I'm going to be somewhere else one day, right? And so, if we can do that in our lives, that's just working smarter instead of harder. And so, we got to let go of personally trying to be the end all be all for everybody,
Yeah.
and take care of ourselves, make ourselves a priority.
I love that was what was rising up in me as you said that, Shannon, is the learning how
Yeah.
not to try to be everything for everybody, right? And having boundaries with
Yep.
ourselves and each other. You know, we talk about that being the
Yep.
fifth skill of self-care in Stillpoint is boundaries and saying yes and saying no and being able to say no so you can say yes to the things that you really want to and bring you joy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I was reading this article as we prepped for today. It was called The 7 Ways to Successfully Cultivate Social Wellness for Life. And
Mm.
it was from a place called Optimum Performance Institute. And we'll drop that link in our show notes. But it talks about how to cultivate your habits of social wellness. And it gave 7 guidelines, which we're right on the money with the first one, is practicing
Mm.
self-care, like finding balance in our life. And so,
Right.
you know, you and I've talked about this on the show before, and several of our guests have brought it up, but self-care means something different for everybody, right?
Mm.
Self-care is, I know for you, one of the things you love to do is take care of your nails. And that's part
Yep.
of your self-care practice. Are you going to show them your nail kit? Is it close by?
Yeah, I am. So, oh, I got everything right here. So, my nails were done. This week is particularly okay, interesting, because I've done my nails twice in one week. I really do the most of these nails, okay? Because I've been cleaning and of course they get messed up, so I did them again. We went to Grandma Linda's 70th birthday party. Shout out to Grandma Linda. I had to look good for these pictures, Christine. This is going down in history.
Right.
Okay, it's in quarantine. So I try to enjoy my femininity that way. And yes, I did them twice. But we talk about tools. I have this box that has the different things I need, different files and clippers and the brush to brush off the extra nail dust, right? And then I need to
That's
be an Amazon
gorgeous.
affiliate, you know.
Like, that is
Uh, I have
gorgeous.
this little briefcase that organizes
For
everything.
our listeners that are
Yes,
listening and not
and
watching,
you know,
Shannon, will you describe it for our listeners who are listening and not watching?
absolutely. So what this is it looks like a two-sided clear briefcase, and it has um, little compartments. Imagine if you had Band-Aids, and they would be about that size. It's a little bit bigger than that, and you can put whatever you want to on either side. People who make jewelry use it, right? People
That's what
use
I
it
use
for.
mine for. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. And that's how I found out about it when I was little. I had beads, and I think my mom bought me something like this. And so the fact that it's two-sided makes it super functional. And when I got it, I got everything that I needed. You know, I got the 500 set of acrylic nails. I got the nail polish, so I got little samples so I could try out the different colors. And then I have a smaller toolkit that came with like toe separators. I think that's what they're called. Different grades of nail filers because you use different ones for different things. Came with a cuticle cutter. I got a little brush to help me take out the excess um, nail polish on the toe, that's not cute. You know what I'm saying? You coloring all outside the lines is cool sometimes, but not on the toes. So I got this stuff to make sure that I have what I need to be able to take care of myself. And again, woosah from everything that has been quarantine. When we talk about social wellness, of course, it ties into occupational. That's kind of what we've been talking about. But it's really important for my sanity and my mental and emotional well-being to actively take care of myself when I'm in an environment that values my life less than air fresheners and electronic votes. Like y'all move quick on this other stuff, but when it comes to me, I could get shot and this person only get charged for the bullets that miss. So I'm gonna make sure that I take care of myself as long as I can. And this is how I make that more of a fun and optimistic thing. And we can have fun with it and be creative and stay in this side of healthy operating.
Right. And for people that were listening and not looking, she has all these beautiful array of colors for her
Yeah.
nails, which I love. I'm like the exact opposite of you, Shannon. Like I'm a hippie chick that does not do her nails. Like if I put on nail polish, it might be clear. And that's like big woo woo for me. Now I love doing my toenails, but it's not like that doesn't fall under myself. Like it's fun, but it's not, that one doesn't fall into my self-care like more like, one of my number one self-cares is walking outside barefooted and putting my feet on the earth. Right. And that I love. And one of my clients, self-care, well, several of my clients actually is doing some ceremony around paying bills, like putting a candle on and paying their bills and giving gratitude for paying their bills. And self-care looks different for everybody. Right. But if we can use positive skills to manage stress and self-soothe and have self-compassion for ourselves, which we have an expert on self-compassion that's going to be a guest in a couple of weeks, Dr. Cynthia Phelps from Inner Ally. And I can't wait to talk to her about some of this too. But in the article, they also talk about knowing yourself, which I love that about you, my friend. Like, you're doing your nails. This is what but getting to know yourself, like identifying your preferences, your values. We talk about that. We talk about that in Stillpoint too. Like, know your inner authority, like your body wisdom. What do you like?
Yeah.
Not what we're taught to like from media and telling us how we should look but what do we like, right? What's your favorite color, Shannon?
Yes. Yeah.
What's your favorite color?
The jury is still out. Right now, I would say red, but honestly, I'm liking all of the different shades of red. I like coral, I'm liking the burgundy. I like those. And I also have been enjoying yellow more since that's the Shealo Glo colors, enjoying bringing that bright energy out because quarantine, I feel like, has been dark, so I've been intentional about looking at brighter colors.
Ah, okay. I like that.
What about yours? What's your favorite color?
Purple. Well, for years it was blue, but really I love purple. So, I'm really resisting hard not running out and buying that new iPhone because I'm not an early adopter. Like I usually intentionally do not buy things when they first come out, but they have tempted me. They have tempted me with the purple iPhone. I have to tell you.
Oh, there's a purple iPhone? Yeah, I don't even watch. I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting it.
It just dropped, right? It just dropped. And my kids texted me. They know how much I love purple. They're like, Mom, I'm like, I'm not looking. Let me have some self-control. So when we talk about financial wellness, I don't pop off on here and say how much I ran and spent on a new phone.
That's funny. Yeah, you got to be strategic with it, and you might still get it. It's not no, it just might be not right now, and like you said, that's the balance of social wellness and social expectations. Do I run and get it because it's the newest one? I like the color, so it's cool to have stuff that I like, and people like to know that I have new things. Like that's the thing for me, and I feel like a lot of young people, the expectation to look like everything's cool and flashy and worth the Instagram picture, but Do you have life insurance? Okay, it's less than
Yes, I
$20 a
do.
month.
I'm gonna go buy a new phone.
Good time. Yes, I will say I do too. Just like you vote, we got to vote. We got to make sure that our stuff is set up. It's not just about what other people say. And it's so interesting because outside of inflation that I think about all the time with all this money that's coming out, right? I also think about, what was I about to say? I also think about how to get set up again, how to get set up for real and making sure that we're not just feeding into what people expect of us, especially when we talk about intersectionality. You talked about one of your teachers. I had a teacher who told me that you need to say no sometimes, and at this point I was 5 classes, so I had a full time a full schedule at college, right? Then I had 3 jobs and I was a TA. So one of these students, I was her RA, I was her resident assistant and would help her at the dorms, have events for her, all this stuff. And I was her TA, I was her teacher's assistant. So in this class, if she had any questions about tutoring or different things that we would help the professor with, I was her person for both. But clearly you see that's a lot on my plate. And I didn't realize how much I said yes until Professor Donovan, shout out to Professor Donovan, in psychology and AADS at Kennesaw State, if she's still there. But she told me you have to say no more. And so the relationship with yes and no is very important.
I think it's huge. And, it's often wherever it comes from, whether it's the wanting to be nice or polite, or I think about this in boundaries as we open back up and as invitations are going to start to come in. And as we look at this, because, when we first started talking about social wellness, the first thing I go to is hanging out with folks or, being a part of communities. And that's a piece of it, right? That's a piece of it. But
Yeah.
how do we do that in right balance? How do we do that and have self-care at the same time? The article I was mentioning earlier, it talks about owning up to your own part in every relationship, that there are 2 people involved and each contributes to any situation that comes up, positive or negative, and taking responsibility for yourself. And I think about that, and it talks about disagreements and conflict, but I'm even thinking about this as, there's been some folks I literally have not seen in a year. Right.
Most people. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, okay, how am I going to do that? Right. How am I going to, I'm not articulating this well, but I think about our schedules. I don't know about y'all, but my schedule has been nuts running a business during this pandemic. And so getting back in balance with that, where I'm having more rest time, but then also we were talking about this in our radical self-care class the other day, that we have a test for self-care, which I'll put a link to it for folks in our show notes. But it talks about, one of the things is where, like, going in between, and one of them was rest and recreation, right? Because sometimes and I think about that because I think they're not the same things. Like, I am very much, people meet me and are like, oh my gosh, she's an extrovert. And I have that piece of myself. I'd probably lean more towards being an ambivert. Like, I need alone time to recharge and people recharge me. It's kind of both. But I think about reopening for social situations, reopening for being out there in the world. And that means I'm going to have to put some more rest time in my schedule.
That's a great point.
I may totally be overthinking it.
You might be a what?
Overthinking it.
No, actually, no, not at all. This is what it looks like to be intentional with all 8 dimensions. There's a lot to go into, and people are so used to just talking about the surface and never going deeper that, again, if we're really going to work on wellness, our attention spans have got to get longer. That's it. we're not in third grade. You know, like, and even if you got to break it up, if you got to break up when you have the conversations, this is a journey, it's a lifelong thing, of course. You know, you don't have to talk about everything in one conversation or do it all today. That's not realistic, and we got to be realistic. But I think that you are wise, women connected in wisdom, right? That you're wise of looking ahead as a business owner. What do I want my schedule to look like? Just like you should look ahead for your money, it's time and financial freedom. So you should look at your time too. And honestly, Christine, I'm not. If you don't know me, you probably won't see me unless, again, I'm working and it's Shealo Glo and you're going to meet me. And nice to meet you. Of course, I'm excited to meet you. Outside of that, I'm in the house because I'm intentional about my physical wellness and my financial wellness. And I still need to be studying to make sure that all this stuff that we're setting up is successful, and that that I rest too with everything that's going on. Again, because we talk about holding the grief and the gratitude, right? And with, again, the Dante Wright situation, we talk about social wellness. Um, it really took a lot out of me, and I was surprised. I was like, you know what? I need to go home and sit down. Like, this is crazy. An air freshener. Like, I'm trying not to keep going back to it, but it's tragic that we can't spend time on stuff because it's every day. It's literally like every day something happens. We talk about self care. Okay, go to the massage parlor. They're shooting up massage parlors too. Like, where are we
Right.
supposed to go? Can't go
Right.
to sleep. Can't go to the get Skittles. You know. So I think about, you asked how are we supposed to do this, right?
Right.
And I'm looking forward to talking to Claire. We have a listener who brought up a more up to date reference that we can use, the 12 universal needs. I'm interested to see what she's going to say about it. But right now, you know, I'm going to go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And first is survival. In bare minimum, my survival means the health of my generational lineage. It That means the health of the generations, not just physically, women having babies. You know, when we talk about the birds and the bees, we need to talk about the 8 dimensions of wellness. Okay, and how are we gonna get set up? So right now, that's what my focus is on. Then we can look into love and belonging and parties and all this stuff, but that's where it comes from, because if people as a group socially are stuck at survival, it's hard to get up into the deep conversations and the nuances of social wellness, especially when we're talking about anti-bullying and all this stuff for the kids. But how can you talk about anti-bullying when the environment, if we're talking about the national environment and environmental wellness, is bullying? Like, of course, like, that's, it's almost
Well,
pointless to
and
have the conversation,
gun violence, right? Because right as we start to
right?
reemerge and open back up, we're having more mass shootings like that happened in Atlanta that
Right,
affected our community, like in a deep, deep way. And it's
right.
like school, you know, I think that's honestly when one of the gifts of the pandemic is the the school shootings have gone down because, you know,
Mm,
I know for myself as a parent, sending my child to school when you just don't know. Like when you get that text that there's a lockdown or there's a threat of a lock, like, whew, yeah, like it's a
yes,
big deal.
yes. And thankfully, I've never been that close to a situation like that, you know. And let me be very clear that when I said there's no point in having a conversation, in no way do I mean to not have a conversation or that the conversation needs to be stopped. But we've got to, this is not, actually, it is war propaganda, is what I think about. People are just saying stuff, but we have to really do the work all the way. We have to go to the root of it. And again, thankfully, I haven't been that close, but I do remember one day as a manager, I was at work, and one of my teammates, his brother was actually at a school, and he got that text like, something is happening. They're shooting at my school, and he was at work. He was not okay. Of course, you know what I mean? Like, but we have to
Right?
be at work and put on this front and then continue to do our jobs, because we don't have or I've never seen an environment where it's, hey, I'm having a situation mentally right now. Would you mind if I step away from the responsibility of my roles? Of course not. You got to figure it out. And so it was interesting. But something else that I do to help me is knowing that everything that happens in my life works for my good. And it's difficult to wrap my mind around that when I think about the men that get killed and how they call for their moms, and that's something that they talk about, right? I'm not a mom yet, but I can't imagine. But then Dante Wright actually called his mom. He was on the phone with her, and they hung up the phone. What? Like, it's crazy. So, to think that everything that happens in my life works for my good. If I'm a Black mother, which one day I will be, right? How do you wrap your mind around that? That's where you got to go to your still point and make sure that you're taking care of yourself and not overextending yourself for other people whose role it's not their responsibility to anyways. And even if they had the opportunity, we know that humans let you down, and that's why it talks about all the different dimensions. My spiritual wellness is so interconnected to my social wellness because, again, for the sanity reason and still being able to operate from a place of love and light and positivity and hope for the future, knowing that God has a plan for me, even though somebody else might have a different plan. I have control over the part that I have control over, and I'm going to loose off for a second, put on some Shealo Glo, drink my water, go run 4 times a week so I can work this energy out. And because they shot Ahmad Jamal in the back when he was actually, excuse me, I think that's a jazz player, but his name was Ahmad, okay? And they shot him in the back while he, what's his last name?
Oh, I didn't say his last name. I was just saying he was from South Georgia.
Right. And excuse me for forgetting his last name, right? But they shot him while he was running. So I think about him when I run, but I do those things so that I can continue to work that out. But again, spirituality and the social wellness, it keeps me.
I may say his last name wrong, but I believe it was Arbery.
Arbery? Ahmad Arbery.
Yeah,
Arbery.
I think I may be saying it wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember the alliteration, the AA, but yeah, so I also understand that with religion and spirituality, a lot of times we talk about how it might turn it so that you try to fight less, or it's just making you not pay attention to reality. And that's why all of the 8 dimensions help me to have a clear picture of what's going on. Where am I today? And that's why I start my day with myself. Before I hop on my phone, before I look at my email on social media and whatever news story Google populates, before I pick to go to my Gmail, GQ and these mattresses, just seeing how people switch their story to be relevant. Before I do all that, what is Shannon's story? What does Shannon want? Because again, as a woman and as a Black person, a lot of times if you're not intentional about thinking about those things, it'll be really easy to fill the blanks on your piece of paper for your life with pre-generated answers that somebody else put in and not even realize it, So where am I at today? Mentally, spiritually, physically, and then I can deal with everything else.
Right. I love what you just said about not letting somebody else's pre-generated answers be like the script that we live our life by. That we get to
I'm an author, baby. I write my own story. What does Shannon say about this about herself, But again, we talk about sitting in the authority and having the confidence to do that. That's something I'm still working on. Every day I see something that I learn or that I could have done better. But again, that's why it's a journey. It's a lifestyle.
Well, one of the things they said in this article, I know I keep going back to it, but it was really yummy, is appreciate yourself and others. Give more energy to positives and negatives to help keep us happier, healthier, and more hopeful. So I just heard you do that for yourself. And it also talks about acknowledging the positive qualities you see in yourself and accepting genuine compliments from others, like appreciating that positivity. So, I
Yeah.
appreciate that you're drinking your water and taking care of yourself. And not only that, Shannon, like you created a company to help yourself and to help other women. And what a gift that is,
Yes.
right? What a gift.
Yes.
And I'm just seeing
And
you, our
I
folks
love it.
and not watching with us right now. I wish y'all could see Shannon because she really is just glowing right now. Like she is the best advertising for Shealo Glo ever because she's just like woo,
Thank you.
showing up, just beautiful skin and
Thank you.
radiating sunshine. So
Thank you so much. And yeah, we're coming up on my birthday, ladies. My birthday's May 17th. Okay. And my best friend's birthday just passed. And when I think about Shealo Glo, our sponsor, shout out to Shea Butter in Africa and Ghana and everything that goes into making these products. But I think about me and my best friend taking care of ourselves because both of our moms passed away from cancer, like within months of each other. It's crazy. We have to take care of the women. I don't care what you say. The women have to be taken care of. They're taking care of you. You don't take care of them, who's going to be here? None of us are going to be here if the women aren't taken care of. And so I look forward to making the money. That is part of financial wellness. It was smarter for me to be a business owner than an employee. But it's really, like you said earlier, you said purpose, right? I feel like I'm living my purpose now, doing this podcast with you, being able to genuinely give a gift of self care. I love that I get to help you take care of yourself. I love that I get to help my best friend take care of herself and my goddaughter and my boyfriend's mom and this person in Pennsylvania and this person in Maryland and this person in Florida and this person in California. I love that. What more could I ask for to genuinely help people take better care of themselves? Because your environment might not be doing that for you, but you have the power to do it for yourself. But are you
right.
going to take the power? Are you going to harness your wellness, or are you just going to give it to other people and hope that they get to it on their list of to do things? No.
Right. One thing I want to talk about before we start wrapping, because I know we could talk about this all day.
Okay.
But for folks
Of
who
course.
struggle with, like, I was thinking about this as you were talking, because you and I have a lot of connections. We have a lot of friends. We have a lot of people.
Yeah.
But for somebody that might be struggling coming out of the pandemic, for somebody who social wellness is a challenge because they don't know how to meet people or how to get engaged. I think we should give our top one or twos for that because we're from different generations, we're from different backgrounds. What would you say to that, to somebody who was trying to figure out how to engage socially with new folks?
So, one, I love this question. And I would say, and I want to be intentional about my answer. So I'm going to think about it for a second. But what I would say is think about what you need first. Don't step out based on what you see other people need. Where are you in your life? So, for example, I was a greeter at church. At Victory on Tuesdays, we had Fusion. Fusion was lit. Okay, you talk about social wellness. That was my place to go and put down all the weight of my mom being sick, work being crazy, trying to figure it out. I was able to go and relax and work on my spiritual wellness and get fed at the same time. But I also served. So I was intentional about that. With Corona, I had to let that go because I needed to focus on myself. So, me letting that go, the responsibility of helping others at church was part of my social wellness. But I made that decision based on where I was. Because if not, I would have tried to hold on to it because I felt like that's what I should do. And I'm a leader. So, of course, that should help. It's pandemic. People are going to come and need help. But now I'm overextending myself and hurting myself when I needed to heal and be focused on me for my survival at the bottom, right? So, of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and being aware of where I am. So, I would say know where you are and then ask yourself what you want to do. Have fun with it. Don't be so, oh, if I don't go to this party, then what would benefit you, right? What are you doing right now? Do you want to go to only virtual or do you want to go in person? That's probably a good question, right? And then what do you want it to look like? If it was a perfect situation, why would you be there? What type of people would you meet? And I would, just like you're intentional about um, the shows you watch or the food you eat, I would be intentional about the things that you intake and the people that you intake. Part of what we were reading before the show, you were talking about older relationships. And if they're healthy, being able to bring those back. A lot of stuff that is not in the life anymore, the season in your life is over. Keep it not in your life anymore. But when you're adding new relationships, and as we step into the next level of our life and your continued purpose every day, who do you need to be around you for you to be the best person? When I think about my social wellness, something else I think about is I am the average of the 5 people that I spend the most time with. And if you don't know who that is, then you don't know why your grade on your test is what it is. And I need to know why my grade is what it is. And I need to pass, because if not, it's death to me and the generations. So
spoken like an honor student.
right, exactly. And the education system, we talk about it, but that's the reality of the situation. And I'm an honor student, Christine, and I like to make sure that I operate in excellence. And so that's what I would say. Being mindful of the 5 people around you will help. And I know you said 2. I'm long-winded, which is why we got a podcast. I will give you one more, but actually, nope, I forgot my third one. So go ahead. What's your 2?
I'm gonna piggyback a little bit on what you said about rekindling old friendships or relationships with people who are positive and respectful and supportive. Like, you might have lost track over this year with somebody you really liked, like an old colleague or a friend that you live. And so I would start
family
there.
Members.
Somebody that I really want to reconnect with, that the pandemic is what got in the way. And then I loved what you said about checking in with yourself first. And what do you want? Like, I always go to volunteering. I love that story of volunteering for victory, because I have found some really dear friends and incredible community in volunteering or activism. Like, getting involved in something that I'm passionate about is a great way to meet people, because especially if it's an activity, like, the other people are there because they're usually motivated and excited about it too. A simple one is meetup.com. Like, a simple one is going to MeetUp and filling out your interest and seeing what's happening around you. Right? That's a nice tech tool.
I like that.
So we can put a link to that too for folks to check that out. But yeah.
And I specifically love that too. And we talked about me going to therapy, and how the one place that I knew I wanted to focus on was my social support. So when I mapped out my time and I set my goals for this year, I was intentional about exactly, this was my wisdom in action this year, right? Family and friends. So the way I really judge these relationships, are you going to put them on your life insurance policy? If something happens, are you going to give them $10,000, $30,000, $75,000? Whoever is that close, I would, how is that relationship? How much time do you spend there? And then it's like a cell. It has it's the part that's really close to you, and then the people that aren't so close, and the people that are even further from there. And then, think about your role in the relationship and how you want that to be. And then outside of that, where do you need support? Is it financially? I needed support financially. So my social circle looks like bookkeepers. We're talking about accountants. I'm talking about investors and Primerica. And because if my average is low on the financial wellness side, that's where I'm going to add. And then I'll one last point that I'll make to what you said, Christine. I love volunteering. And volunteering actually has been huge in my social wellness throughout my life. I was NHS president, Beta Club secretary. So like volunteer opportunities in high school, like I was somewhere over there. And it helped me not focus so much on the things I had going on. My dad being in and out the hospital, us being divorced again. I say I've been divorced twice already, and it helped me remember that there's other people that are going through stuff too. You have your stuff and they have theirs, and everybody has to carry their weight. But again, making sure that it's balanced. You don't have to overextend yourself. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. And I want to give a shout out to Shealo Glo's first Shayro, Brianna. She actually has an organization, yes, that does exactly this. They make sure that the volunteer organizations are doing what they should and are treating the people who they're supposed to help the way they're supposed to. And that is huge. A lot of people need help right now. This is what we're talking about: social wellness, financial wellness, physical wellness during quarantine. And I love that she took the time to get educated and get involved in her community. And Brianna was our first Shayro, and it was announced on her birthday. So happy birthday again, Brianna. Shout out to you and the work that you do in the community. If you have a Shayro that you would like to nominate that's been making a difference in your life, in the community, email my Shayro as a subject line to shaloglo@gmail.com, and I'll make sure that I enter her into this quarter's drawing.
I love that Shealo Glo does that and honors incredible women in the community, and that we get to talk about them here. I think that is fantastic. Well, my friend, as always, I have enjoyed our conversation. I have about 10 more things I could say, but we try to keep it under listeners. So
we do try. Yeah, we've been doing pretty good.
Are we going to have an after conversation on Clubhouse? We've been putting this around.
If I'm available.
Would love for our listeners to give us feedback about if y'all want to have some after conversations on Clubhouse where we could meet up and talk some more. And I know we love it when we have listeners that are watching us live and they give us comments through Facebook or YouTube, because we can include them in the conversation. But also, sometimes folks are driving home and they can't do that, or they are not in a position, they're listening while they cook dinner. Absolutely. So we've been talking about different times that we want to meet up on Clubhouse and just invite y'all more into a conversation. Like, we're having tea and having a conversation. And so be watching for that on our social media.
Absolutely.
And you can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. Find us all over the place. But I think
not
for
Twitter,
today,
but everywhere else. Yes. Yes. And ladies, again, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to be well, be wise, and be whole. We will see you next week at 5 and at the after party conversation on Clubhouse. At what time are we getting on Clubhouse, Christine? Are we doing 8 to 9? What time?
Well, that's the thing about by the time this airs, unless we start doing 8 o'clock on Thursday, we're going to have to edit this piece out. Let me stop the broadcast. And then we won't say it today.